Hello there and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, after the wait and beating the deadline by whiskers, President Bola Tinubu transmitted the names of those who will steer the ship with him in ministerial capacity to the Senate for confirmation. Now, while almost all have been screened and confirmed, 3 are yet to get the nod from members of the Red Chambers. On the show today, we will take a look at the spread of the appointments as well as their capacity and track record that may have warranted their pick amongst many other available options. But let's first get a wrap of social media trends in the past week.
Nigerians joined their counterparts around the world to encourage the youth on a day set aside by the United Nations to raise awareness and drive action on a range of issues affecting the youth globally. President Tinubu led the line of public office holders to call on the youths to follow to the letter the theme of this year's celebration, Green Skills for Youth Towards a Sustainable World, as they pledge to provide all that is needed for this to happen. The world is still following the situation in the Republic of Niger as ECOWAS moves to reach an agreement, either by force or negotiations, to ensure that democratically elected ousted president is returned to power. Protests have been held in Nigeria for and against the military junta, as some believe it is a classic case of the voice of Jacob, hand of Esau, as they allege that Russia is behind the junta.
Well, there you go. Those were the trends in the past week. Again, International Youth Day was over the weekend. And of course, happy International Youth Day to all of the youth in Nigeria and the world at large. But joining us to look at today's topic, we have with us Francis Okoye. He's a political scientist by training and politician by practice. He was a member of the APC Presidential Campaign Council and convener coalition of Southeast APC Support Group. He joins us right here in the Abuja studio. It's a pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We also have joining us via Zoom from Lagos, Ayodele Adio. He is the managing editor, the Avalon Daily News. It's a pleasure to have you as well on the show, Ayodele.
Thank you, Victor, for having me.
Absolutely. You're welcome always. But Francis kicks out this conversation for us. So much has been said. Nigerians waited. I mean, the wait might not be as long as it was in 2015, but Nigerians waited. And along the line, we got the ministerial list. What was your impression, so to speak, now, when this popped up?
Yes, first of all, I want to congratulate all the ministerial nominees, those the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu deemed fit and qualified to nominate as ministers to serve in his cabinet. I want to use this medium to congratulate them and to equally wish them well after they must have taken out of office and sworn into their various ministries. My expectations were high before their nominations. And as an APC member, I think the president were true to his words. When you look at the caliber of personalities who nominated for ministerial appointments, you will look at it and you will observe an admixture of technocrats and politicians. We don't expect the president to nominate only technocrats. We equally don't expect the president to nominate or appoint ministers to serve in his cabinet who will be only politicians. We need an admixture of both for him to succeed, because this is politics we are talking about and this is governance we are entering into. So I think the list is encouraging. The caliber of men and women, at least for the first time, we are witnessing a situation where women are greater in number in the cabinet, in the appointment. We are equally witnessing a situation whereby the youths are given opportunities to come on board to serve as ministers under the Tinubu Asiwaju administration. So to me, I think that list is what people like us who are members of APC Campaign Council, who joined the president during the campaign trail to tour most of the states of the federation and local government are expecting of him, even though we cannot say it is 100% satisfactory, but to a very larger extent, that list is complementary and satisfactory.
Well, you said it's not 100%. I'll come back to you on that little percentage where,
yes,
the satisfaction, isn't there. But let's also get Ayodele's thoughts on this. Ayodele, what were your thoughts, after everything and when we got wind of who and who were on the list?
I mean, for me, three things came to mind very quickly. The first is that the idea that we'll continue to send names to the National Assembly for confirmation without portfolio, I think has outlived its existence. It makes absolutely no sense. It makes a mockery of the process, and it handicaps the senators who find it very difficult to ask the kind of questions that they would have, which is why Nigerians tend to frown at the fact that most senators are asking watery questions, and many of them have been asked to bow and go. Of course, that would happen because you don't even know the person you're interrogating, what portfolio is going to be presented to him by the president. And so I would advocate that just like the National Assembly legislated on the fact that within 60 days the president had to nominate his cabinet, I think the National Assembly needs to go a step further to say that the president needs to send the portfolios attached to the names of the people that he has so nominated. That's the first thing. The second, of course, is, yes, I'm excited to see a lot of young people in this cabinet. If my counting is correct, I think about 7 of them are below the age of 45, which makes, a lot of sense to me. Young people have to learn the ropes. And of course, while the old guard are leaving the space, it's important to be able to replace them with people with experience. Having said that, I'm a bit, I'm not sure how to even classify my feelings. It's a bit topsy-turvy here with the quality of the people that have put forward vis-a-vis the challenges that confront us as a country. For instance, there is no name on that list that pops up to me as a substantial Minister of Defense at a time where we're dealing with, very serious national security crisis. None particularly strikes me as someone who can fill that particular position. And for me, again, the economy is one critical aspect for our country. While I know that there are a few people on that list who seem to have, a strong background in finance, I'm not sure that any of those people have articulated a clear plan to create jobs and grow our economy, which we're in dire need of at the moment. And thirdly, and most importantly, Victor, is the fact that there are certain people on that list, who have questions that have not yet been answered, whether it's on the EFCC part. And of course, you have, some people who have been nominated into that cabinet who, for instance, the European Union, had pointed to the fact that elections in their states were manipulated. The Premium Times wrote a report on that particular state, just as the BBC also did an exclusive on that particular state of the kind, of violence and irregularities that were presided over on that state. And that said, that individual was also nominated as ministers. And so I was a bit disappointed that a few people who had lots of questions around their character also snuck themselves into that list and found their ways into the ministerial list. But ultimately, let's give the appointed individuals a chance and see what they bring to the table. But there's an urgent need for us to begin to steer the ship in the right direction. And so we won't be having too many patience. But let's give them a chance to see what they bring on board. And, of course, we're optimistic that they'll steer this ship in the right direction. And if they don't, we'll be here to criticize them and call them to order.
Indeed, well, that's the work of Nigerians again. Like it is usually said, it's the government of the people, for the people, by the people. So, of course, it is expected that Nigerians would call them to order, either via protest or via their votes. when next the opportunity comes. But you made mention of the screening process. You said, you know, the right questions were now asked, which you alluded to the fact that the names were sent to the senators without portfolios. You know, again, so I'm thinking, how different would you have wanted it to be, especially, you know, with the way the screening process went? We had situations where at a point, you know, it became rowdy. What would you have loved to see different?
So for me, if you are going to be appointing Mr. X as the Attorney General of the Federation, and the Senate, you know, had an understanding that this individual was going to be appointed as Attorney General of the Federation, of course, they can prepare accordingly to ask that individual, you know, questions around legality, constitution, and things like that, to be able to get the best out of that nominee and to also give the Nigerian people a feel of who their next Attorney General would be. That helps the citizens to only not gauge the capacity of that individual to fit that particular role, you know, but to also, you know, manage their expectations as citizens. But unfortunately, that has not happened. We're here making wild guesses as to who is going to fill what, you know, in which positions. Of course, there are a few individuals that we hope are going to fill certain positions. For instance, you know, the gentleman, Bosun Tijani, who was screened by the National Assembly. I mean, we're hopeful that, you know, he gets a portfolio, the Ministry of Communications and the digital economy, given his rich background and experience in that digital space where he's been able to move the needle in the digital economy and to impact that space tremendously as a private sector citizen, and what he's been able to achieve so far with young people with his co-creation hub that he built in Yaba, especially the fact that 2 unicorns have passed through him. So if you have that kind of individual being given the portfolio of the Minister of ICT and Digital Economy, then, you know, we're likely to see a huge turnaround in that particular ministry if, for instance, he's giving the level playing field you know, to play as much as he would like to. So for me,
there's a caveat there. If he's given the freedom, you know, to operate.
Oh yes, of course, that caveat is important. that caveat, because every minister, the size of your playing field is ultimately determined by the vision of your principal, you know, and the support that principal is going to give you to achieve your strategic objectives. And, you know, and if the president is willing to back someone like Bosun Tijani, and is allowed, and there's a vision for him to play around, especially in terms of creating jobs and opportunities for young people in the digital economy, I have no doubt that he's going to be a standout, you know, minister, and he's going to his impact will be felt by young people across the country. So ultimately, what I want to see is a situation where, when you put names forward to the National Assembly, at least give the Nigerian people the chance to know that this person is going to be nominated in this kind of position. And people who want to send petitions, people who want to send questions to their legislators will know exactly what kind of person they are dealing with and what role that person is going to fill in whatever government he's going to be serving.
Very well. Francis, what's your take on this? You know, looking at the fact that, you know, he made mention of, you know, the fact that we don't see names and portfolios being sent to the Assembly. But before we get to that, you made mention of how, to a certain extent, you know, this list is unsatisfactory. Tell us a little bit about that. In what aspects are you saying it is unsatisfactory, first of all?
Yeah, first of all, I come from the southeast eastern part of this country, Anambra State to be precise. Yeah. Going by the distribution of the number of ministers our president has so far nominated and screened by the Senate, you find out that the people from southeast are being marginalized, so-called. And there are some geopolitical zones that have 9. There are some that have 10, there are some that have 8, and my geopolitical zone, the Southeast, have just 5. That means one per state. Why there are some states that have 3 ministers, there are some states that have 2, and the whole of Southeast we are giving just one per state. Yeah. So that is my number one dissatisfaction with the list. So then the second part of it...
You're talking about the spread now.
Yes, yes.
All right, let me just hold you there for a bit. We'll take a quick break. Of course, I'll come back and we'll get the second part and third, if possible, of the unsatisfactory things that, strike you on that list. But we'll take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. We still have with us our panelists right here in the studio as well as via Zoom. But just before we went on break, Francis was talking about the spread of the ministerial nominees, and he made mention of the Southeast that have had only about 5 ministers on the list. That was one of the unsatisfactory things you talked about on the list for you. What else would you say didn't sit well with you on the list?
Yeah, another thing that didn't augur well with me and some of us from our party, the APC, is the issue of
so it's
rewarding... No, I'm coming. APC won an election. Yeah. Truth of the matter is that the APC won the election. And whichever way you look at it, we are entering into governance. And as we are entering into governance too, you need to carry along some of those people who helped you to win that election. Some of us are complaining that we are not being carried along in the appointment in terms of recognizing those people who really work for the party. You don't work in Submiller Company and go to John Holt or Dangote and collect your salary. There are people we are seeing in that list, though I wouldn't mention names, who we know did not work for the party, who we know even during the campaigning period were attacking the party. And now they are being recognized. Why some of us who are work for the party are being left unrecognized? That is where I'm going. Then when you look at the issue of those 3 ministerial nominees that were stood down by the Senate, El-Rufai, Stella Oketete, and what is his name again, the third person. It shouldn't be so.
From Taraba.
We know that El-Rufai was one of the biggest supporters of Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu. El-Rufai was one of those that came out openly campaigning.
What if the Senate has something on him, or the security agencies have something on him?
I'm coming. We are not arguing whether the Senate has anything about it or what have you. We know what is happening. We know what is happening at the background. We know there are some people in our party who do not want the face of El-Rufai in Tinubu's cabinet. I'm a member of APC Presidential Campaign Council, so when I speak, I know what I'm telling you. Yeah. So those people are ganging up against the person of El-Rufai, against Oketete and the third person. I'm pleading with our president to please. This is his prerogative to nominate or appoint whoever he wants to work with him in the cabinet. And that is why when I was talking about the imbalance in the number in the geopolitical zone, it was an appeal that I am making to the president, which I'm still reiterating now, that he should consider Southeast for 2 more ministerial slots. It is his prerogative to decide the number of ministerial appointment he gives to any state. So far, he satisfies that at least 1 per state that is in the constitution, which he has done. We give him kudos for that constitutional satisfaction. Satisfaction. But in terms of adding more to us, I think we are the least. Like I told you, the Northwest, I think, have 10 slots, ministerial slots. The Southwest, I think, 8 or 9. Then we have South that has about 7. It's only Southeast that has 5 ministerial slots. Yeah. So I think I'm appealing to the president to please, he's a father. He's a man who carries everybody along. We know him. Let him please consider Southeast for at least 2 more additional slots. Then the area I'm talking about in terms of recognizing people who have suffered for the party. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man who we know recognizes value, a man who we know recognizes loyalty. He over the years, most of the people he has been working with, even up to this moment, are people who over the years have shown loyalty, have shown consistency, have shown some level of support and truth to his dreams and vision. you know, and those are the people he's bringing on board. So what I'm saying is that he should do more of that by ensuring that further appointments he's going to make. Very soon there will be announcing board members and board chairman. Why bringing technocrats also to be on board on those parastatals, agencies and boards that will be reconstituted? Let him equally consider some party members who have equally helped in during the campaign. So most of them are murmuring. Some may not come here and say it openly or boldly the way I'm saying it. So I'm using this opportunity to speak for those people who are feeling that they are not being carried along in the appointments made so far, so that in future appointments they can be considered. That is my take, please. It's an appeal.
Well, I mean, I hope those who would be listening, you know, would take that appeal to the doorstep of the president. But I'm just thinking, I'm just thinking out loud now, so to speak. Now, like you said, you spoke about how he has the ability to spot talent, you know, to bring those who are capable into positions of, you know, governance and all of that. What if he deems these party members that he is yet to appoint, you know, as fit to serve in office? What if he deems them, you know, unfit, so to speak?
No. There is no way you can say that. APC
in terms of capacity.
Yes, APC has litany of members spread across all the geopolitical zones, states, local government of this country. There is no state or local government or area in this country that you will not see qualities in terms of intellect, in terms of education, in terms of sagacity, in terms of energy, in terms of be it at the private sector, public sector, or where have you. We have deposits of human capacity across board in APC, across all the states in Nigeria. So you can find them anywhere. So telling me that what if he didn't see them there, I think that is wrong. What I am saying, which I'm reiterating again, is that the president should please consider some of those members of our party, the APC, who work tirelessly for this party. Number one is El-Rufai. El-Rufai should not be treated the way he's been treated. Stella Oketete should not be treated the way she's been treated. I know the efforts of these two people. They should be reconsidered and Senate approve the appointment.
Well, let's hope that comes. But, you know, saying is wrong is totally actually wrong, because this is not the first time, you know, members of your party are actually coming forward to say that, you know, those who worked for the party were not rewarded, now quote and unquote. But let me quickly get back to Ayodele and get his take on the spread of the ministers. Ayodele, what's your take on this? Francis is talking about the number of ministers that each geopolitical zone got, you know, based on what we've seen. What's your how do you see the spread, you know, the distribution, so to speak, now, especially looking at the federal character and all of those principles that guide the appointment of ministers?
I mean, first of all, I think that the president did the wise thing to first fulfill the constitutional obligation of nominating a minister from each state. So that helps him escape any of the criticism that might come in terms of breaching the Constitution. But to the point that the gentleman in the studio has just made, that the Southeast got just 5 nominees, as again setting other states that had double that number. I have always advocated for a lot of equity, especially in the kind of participatory democracy that we practice in Nigeria, where all citizens have to be carried along, especially at a time where we're seeking productivity in our economy. We're confronted with all sorts of challenges, unemployment, poverty, insecurity. We need everybody to come along on this bandwagon to begin to steer our country in the right direction. We cannot afford another 4 or 8 years with a group of people feeling left behind, feeling treated shabbily. I think and I hope you know, that does not repeat itself in this current administration. And hopefully the president will reconsider, even though I feel that 47 ministers are a bit too much, and the government is spending too much at a time where there are scarce resources. But I hope that this is not a template onto how this administration is going to govern. Every geopolitical bloc in this country is not more important than any other. And so the Southeast must be carried along in everything that this administration seeks to achieve, and not left, you know, and not left behind, because it's important, you know, that they are carried along in everything. And the argument that people tend to make that they didn't get as much votes as they did in the Southeast as every other country. I think it's a meaningless assertion, because you have won the election, and now that it's time for government, everybody has to be brought along. And if we're looking at the numbers, you will see that the Southeast, the APC has made the largest progress last election as it has done in recent past. It now has 2 governors in the Southeast. It has the second highest number of State House of Assembly in the Southeast. So it's made considerable progress. And so the argument that they didn't do so well in the last election, I think, is a bit baseless. So on a final note, I'd just like to see that every region of the country is carried along. And let's stop this identity politics where a group of people are left behind. We need collective progress. And to find collective progress, you have to find a way to carry everybody along.
All right, 5 seconds. What should be the prerogative of the president? Party loyalty or, country loyalty?
Of course, that's an easy question. It's country loyalty. Even though, he's a party man and he would have to do what he has to do with his political party, but I think his country is ultimately his #1 priority.
What's your response to that question?
Yes, it is the party that produces the president or the governor or the vice president or the deputy governor. In other words, I think the president should equally consider party in all he does. The other day that the former Kanu governor was he matched the national chairman of our party. Yeah. The president stood up and waited for the national chairman to sit down. Before he sat down. That shows that party first. So country first and party loyalty too is very important.
Very well then. This is where we'll have to drop this conversation. Thank you so very much to you, Francis Okoye, for joining us, as well as Dele and Adio joining us as well via Zoom from Lagos. Thank you to both of you for joining us on the show and sharing your thoughts on this topic. But let's hope that moving forward, all those who have been nominated would, face the business of the day and steer the ship of the country, towards the direction that we all want to see. That's where we'll wrap up the show today. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias. As always, we'll leave you with the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. Bye for now.
In order to enable all of us to enjoy our holidays, a token has been sent to our various accounts by the clerk of the National Assembly.
This week's top videos is from the Hallowed Red Chamber of the National Assembly, where the first among equals had to withdraw his message to members as they prepared to go on recess.
I withdraw that statement.
The moment I mentioned Nigeria, the gentleman said they have to do a special check on me.
It's followed by the explanation given by a ministerial nominee whose past tweets were brought to his attention during screening.
I've also been given a taste of what young people have been doing to all of you as well, which is the tweet you read is just the first part of that tweet. The second part specifically mentioned.
Distinguished colleagues, perhaps...
Third Sport is taken by a video from the Red Chamber again. This time, the Senate President is asking a nominee not to respond to a query made against his alleged past actions.
People in respect of other nominees. But this is not where we are to deal with petitions. Our job here is to screen.
And like I said, I'm sorry for that misunderstanding.
A former minister, Festus Keyamo, apologizing to the Senate for his conduct during his time in office in order to get screened for another ministerial shot takes second sport.
Here is your apology. The one of whether you saw 1 naira or not, the Senate did not hear that one.
While topping the chart is a rowdy session that ensued during the screening of Mr. Keyamo before he later apologized to the Senate.